All right, we're back, everybody. It is time for DIY on Now, and this Thursday we're going to make a spice rack. Now, I've done some of the work beforehand so we can see what the finished product looks like, and I am really happy to share this with you this morning. So the first thing you're going to need is your lumber. So you're going to need 4 pieces that are cut to 11.5 inches. So we have 2 pieces here that are 1 by 6 pieces, and again, these are cut to 11.5. We have 2 pieces that are 1 by 4, and those are cut to 11.5 as well. And then the centerpiece here is a 1 by 4 as well, and this is cut to 10 inches, and you'll see just why in a little bit. So once you cut your pieces, what you're going to do is sand them down and stain them or paint them to whatever you like, after which we are going to start the assembly and the construction process. So here we go. Now, I have already drilled my pilot holes because you know what pilot holes look like, I would like to assume. What you do to get pilot holes, you take a drill, and you know where you mark and you measure, you make sure and you just drill right all the way through your pieces so that you can get your pilot holes. So that when you drive your screws in, what happens is that it does not split your lumber. All right, from there, you're going to do some measurements. So the measurement you're going to do is from the base of your 1 by 4 pieces here. Again, these are 11.5 inches. And what you're going to do is just measure from the base of it until 5.5 inches here, and you're going to mark that. The reason you're going to mark that is because that is going to tell you where you are going to put your center brace, and you need to make sure it's even. So you're going to do that with both your left and your right pieces. All right. So I know where my 5.5 mark is now. So I'm going to mark it here. Then I'm going to use what is called a speed square to mark it. So I'm just going to double up here and do my measurements on the other side at once just to save some time. After that, we're going to use our speed square, align the marks evenly, and then from there, what we're going to do is drill these pieces together, and by the end of it, we're going to have a nice spice rack you can use at home. All right, so as I said, I'm just going to mark these pieces, and here I'm using my speed square. I am right-handed, so I'm going to put my speed square oriented to the left, making sure the line is on the right side, and I'm going to mark. That's my bottom line. I'm going to do the same with this piece here as well. And once you get your lines aligned, it makes your life a lot easier when you have to align this centerpiece here. So what I'm going to do is align the bottom, all right, of the piece with the lines I just drew. All right, and once I do that, I'm going to clamp everything together so then I can drill my holes, my screws into the pilot holes I've done beforehand. All right, so that is well aligned. And I'm going to place my first screw here. For those listening, if you're listening and you can't look, well, what I'm just doing is aligning my lumber pieces, and I'm going to drill in my screws now. All right, that's one in. Just to make my life a little easier, I'm going to turn this around. So I do have another screw to put on this side. What I'm going to do is just fasten the other side at once so that I can have an easier go of it. All right, so just make sure your line is in place. You're going to do the same thing and just drive one screw so that it would hold the piece in place. And what happens is that you don't have to hold it freehand anymore. All right, so I'm going to turn this back around because I placed these in order so that I know exactly what I'm putting where. And now I can have the freedom of putting in my other screws and ensuring that everything is in place and will not move. The screws I am using here are 1.5" fine thread screws. And the reason I'm using that is because, well, for one, that's the length, that's all the length I need. I don't need it to go extremely deep, such as 3 inches into the lumber. And it's not too heavy gauge that would split the lumber as well. All right, so now that that is done, we can now align our top and bottom pieces. And to make my life a little easier, what I'm going to use is a clamp. As I said before, I did drill some pilot holes. And once you drill your pilot holes, it makes it easier for you to drive your screws in without risk of splitting your lumber. So I'm just going to clamp that there, so then the entire thing can move without falling off. Now that this is clamped in place, I can now drive my screws, and we're going to do the same thing that we did before. Since my clamp is in place, I don't have to worry about it moving at all. So what I can do is just drive all the screws in to the spots one by one, side by side. So we're nearly there, and you can already see that this is something that would not only have utility in your kitchen, but it also looks pretty nice. Again, you could use whatever paint or stain that you like that would go with the whole theme and decor of your kitchen. And you're not limited to just this dark walnut that I've used here. All right, so we are nearly there. And by the end of it, well, you're going to have a spice rack. So I'm just driving in my screws here. This is actually the top side I'm drilling my screws into here. And here we are almost done. Just a couple more screws to drive in. And the last one is going in now. All right. So now I can safely unclamp. Place that there. I have a bunch of extra screws, but that's fine. Better to have more than less. And again, this was my top, so when I flip it this way, you'll see what it's supposed to look like. So you could put your spice jars here. You could even put some stuff on top here if you'd like. You can make this bigger if you'd want as well. I just needed something that was nice and compact because, again, you don't want to crowd your kitchen counter too much, right? But here we have a nice little spice rack that you can use in your kitchen for the utility and the beauty of it. Now, if you wanted to go a little further, you could even put braces in the front and the back to, to have almost a compartment rather than just a shelf for your spice jars. But for me, I like it open like this because it's easy access, so I can just grab as I need it. And here you go. So that has been DIY on Now. I made myself a spice rack, and I do hope that you enjoyed, and I do hope that you try it at home as well. And now that we do have the restrictions, more restrictions in place, well, you may have a little more time at home, so you can try these things and make something beautiful for yourself, all right? And that's a wrap for DIY on a Thursday.